Looks like we're fucking live! Hello everyone and welcome to yet another recreational programming session. Not really, but maybe. We'll see. Let's make a tiny bit of an announcement and maybe officially start the stream. We'll see. The winner gets tea, that's for sure. Red circle live on Twitch. And what are we doing today on Twitch, a television, a website? Today, the topic of today's stream is Ask Me Something, right? So essentially, I wanted to stream something today, but I didn't have any prepared content, right? I didn't have any prepared interesting topic to stream, but I still wanted to stream, so I decided that maybe you decide the topic of today's stream, like maybe you ask something, so let me give the link to where we're doing all that. So Twitch .tv/Tsoding, and I'm gonna ping everyone who's interested in being pinged. Right, so what if you start by asking me questions, right, regarding programming, and I'll try to answer them, but I'm gonna try to answer them more or less like legit, not in a snarky usual way. Right, so for example, you may ask me like, what text editor should I learn? And I would legit try to answer that. That would have been interesting. Is your Ethernet better? Yes, it is, but I'm not streaming from Ethernet this time. I forgot to actually connect it, so this stream might be actually very unreliable right now. So I'm still relying on Wi-Fi, yes. Is Porth finished? I suppose you mean Porth. The development of Porth is kind of paused. Right, so, and I'll get to that at some point. So as you can see, sometimes I actually pause some projects and work on something else, and then maybe in a year I can come back to that. So you never know. Do you have a C course? Really like how you explain things. I don't really have any courses at all, to be fair. Like, I don't really teach people. Despite what it might look like I teach something, but I don't really teach people. What I do is just like I sit down and work on the projects that I like to work, and I hope that maybe people can learn from that, but I do not intentionally teach something. And in fact, I don't really know how to teach people programming from scratch. Like, I have no idea like how to teach person C. Like, I don't even know how to approach that. Like, how do I teach a person C who doesn't know C? Where to start? Like, I have no idea, honestly. So that's probably why I just don't have any courses, right? So maybe I should start working on that. I could have taken like the C programming language book as the base, as the list of topics, and I could basically give my take on each individual topic in that book and call that a course, and maybe sell it and become rich. That's a cool idea, actually. I'll think about that. I have a question. If you run your threads on multiple cores, why would you use multiprocessing? I mean, isn't that basically synonyms? Like multi-threading and like multiple cores and multiple processing. So as far as I know, cores is basically processors, but on a single crystal, effectively. So multiple cores is multiple processors, but on a single crystal. So this is how I understand that. Right, so, but I might be wrong. So for me, this sounds like synonyms. Multiprocessing, multi-core, same thing, effectively same thing. So maybe I should actually like let the chat scroll, right? So, and whatever question I actually pick is going to be like picked. Why did you just specifically pick C and not C++? C is simpler, right? And yeah, because it's simpler. It's easier to use. C++ is very complicated and it's growing constantly. And at some point, implementing like a compiler for C++ can become a completely like unmanageable task. But if you write your applications in C, C is simple enough that maybe in the future when there will be no C compilers, My hope is it is easy enough to write your own C compiler and still maintain your software that is written in C. Right. You see what I'm talking about? You see what I'm talking about? Right. So essentially, if you have an old piece of software written in C, in a far, far future, it's going to be way easier to resurrect that piece of software than a piece of software that is written in C++. Right, because it's easier to write a compiler for C than for C++. So your piece of code in that language survives longer. So I'm thinking like, when I'm developing software, I'm thinking about it like in decades of maintenance, right? So how my software is going to be used in 10 years, in 20 years, in 30 years, in 50 years. And the probability of C being a thing in 50 years is way higher than C++ because simpler things survive. Right, simpler used things survive. So, hi Tsoding, if someone made an efficient compiler for JavaScript, would that be a net benefit for the world? Somebody already did. That somebody is Google, and that compiler is V8. Or what is it called? Like JavaScript core, or whatever. Like, I mean, all of the modern JavaScript interpreters are JavaScript compilers. They're called JIT compilers. They're actually compiling your JavaScript to native sequence of instructions. Yes, JavaScript is a compiled language. It compiles to native code before executing. It's called just-in-time compilation. So would it be a net benefit for humanity? Well, do you see a net benefit for humanity? Right? So is the current state of the web looks like a benefit for humanity to you? And that's the answer. So that's the answer to your question. Do you know Windows PE file format? I know that it exists. Do you prefer ELF or PE format? I don't really have any preference because I don't usually work on the level of these formats. I don't really generate these formats. I don't, you know, crack them, unpack them. I do nothing with them. For me, they're just, the difference between them for me is just like difference between MP4 and AV. They're different video containers, but what's the difference for me? I don't care. I just need a video, right? So I don't know like how for myself evaluate the difference between these two formats, right? So they're just two containers for holding instructions for my programs, right? So from that point of view, I don't care. But since I'm using Linux most of the time, it's probably going to be ELF, but this is because that's what Linux support. If I were using Windows, I would be preferring PE because that's what Windows support, right? So if that makes any sense. Would you implement a hash map in C? I think I already did some time ago, but that's actually sounds very interesting, right? So maybe I'm gonna put that down as a to-do. Because that could be actually a very cool video that is easy to market and easy for people to Google. So we have a question in Russian language. How many times you have to force yourself to do projects so it becomes a habit? Oh, I don't really know. Like as many times as you do anything to make anything in a habit, I suppose. To be fair, like you just need to find a project that you actually enjoy, right? It kind of sounds like easy to say than to do, but a lot of people, and myself included, got into programming through modding games. Right. Back in my days, I'm relatively old software developer. I'm not as old as people like Jonathan Bloor or Casey Muratori, but I'm relatively old, so I'm sort of middle-aged developer. And I got into programming through making maps for Warcraft 3, right? Because I was avid gamer, I like to play games, right? My school grades were really bad. They were extremely bad because I've been playing video games all the time, right? And so I really liked Warcraft 3, and I found a map editor, and that's what hooked me in. So because that combined programming with something that I really, really like. So from what I heard, these days, people have a very similar situation, but with Minecraft, right? So I heard that a lot of programmers got into programming through modding Minecraft. So maybe you have your favorite activity like that. Maybe you have a game, your favorite game, and maybe there is a modding community for that game. Maybe you want to look into that, right? It has to be something that you enjoy, right? If you are a musician, you may look into programming music or something like that, programming sounds, or maybe generating MIDI, right? So you need to find the thing that you already like and combine that with programming. You need to associate that, your favorite thing, with programming, and that's how you hook yourself into making different projects and stuff like that. So that's how it works for me. That's how it works for many people. So maybe it will work for you. So that's my advice for you on how to start. Your English is really good. How did you learn it? I learned it in a very painful way, actually. I worked in outsource, right? So essentially, at some point, I got hired by an outsource company that worked for Western clients, and I was just thrown into the English-speaking environment, and it was said, speak English. That was extremely stressful, but at the same time, it forced myself to learn this language very quickly, right? So because whether I stay in the company would depend on how quickly I pick up the language, and I picked up the basics relatively quickly. And so I started to improve my English since then, right? So by then listening to YouTube videos and stuff like that. So, right. So that's how I learned English, if that makes any sense. And after that, I started to stream, and streams provided even more, experience for, practice for this kind of stuff. Why don't you stream on YouTube? I have no idea. So essentially, before 2022, I didn't stream because I had a contract. These days, I think my contract is not really working that well anymore. Plus, I think it's a completely different. So I think there's no exclusivity clause in the contract anymore, I think. So I could stream on YouTube, but I just need to learn how to do that. So it's sort of like a force of a habit. So yeah. Why Emacs? I think there is, I can use Vim, by the way. So for those who doesn't know, I literally can program in Vim. So it's not a problem for me. So I even have Vim. And I would say that I'm basically as efficient in Vim as in C++, as in Emacs, basically, right? So this is how I use Vim, right? So I even know how to exit it. So I can use Vim. It's not a question for me why I prefer Vim over, like, Emacs over Vim or Vim over Emacs. Like, I know both of them. I can use both of them relatively efficiently, like, right? So so essentially, but I mastered, I think, Emacs first and only then Vim. Right, and the reason is actually pretty dumb why I made the decision to actually focus on Emacs and not on Vim, because at some point I was just like trying to think, okay, which cool editor I have to master, right? So which cool editor I have to master? Is it going to be Emacs? Is it going to be Vim? And that was at the time, by the way, my friends, where we didn't have Visual Studio Code. It didn't exist at the time when I was making the decision which editor to learn, Emacs or Vim. That's how I old kids. Visual Studio Code simply didn't exist. Like it was not a thing. There was only Vim and Emacs, that's it. So, and how did I make the decision? It's actually very interesting and very dumb at the same time. So you see, in Emacs, you have your way of navigating, which is actually rather efficient. You use Control-N, Control-P, Control-F, Control-B, and if you get used to that, it's actually rather efficient. It is actually rather efficient. Vim has even more efficient way of navigating and stuff like that. So you have B, W, you can jump by words, you can jump stuff like that and everything. And my problem was, as soon as you type colon and go down into this prompt, all of your fancy navigation tools get thrown out of the window. They just straight up get thrown out of the window. Where in Emacs, if you press MX, you can still use the same way of navigating as you do in the main window. And that was literally the point of decision. This is how I made the decision. Okay, I'm gonna use Emacs from now on. But I didn't know that in Vim, you can press Ctrl F in here, and you can just use a prompt in here where you can do the usual navigations in Vim. I just didn't know that at the time, and in fact, I learned that this year. If somebody showed me that you can do that in Vim, like 10 years ago, I would probably not be using Emacs right now. So that's literally, it's as dumb as that. There is no like some sort of like a, you know, mystery behind why I use it. It's just that. It's as dumb as that. So yeah, that's the greatest secret on why Tsoding uses that goddamn Emacs. It because of that. I didn't know 10 years ago that you can do that in Vim. If I knew, I would probably use Vim. So, so does that answer your questions about like why Tsoding uses Emacs? Yes, the reality is extremely fucking dumb. Unconventional coding, thank you so much for tier 1 with the message. I've never heard you slurp UT. Is it cold or something? I can slurp it just for you. Is that your fetish? Wait, did you literally pay me to satisfy your fetish? You dirty bastard. How to become better in programming? You just do it. You know the answer. You know the answer. You just do it. How did I become like good at programming? I've been programming since 2006. 2006. I've been programming since then. So what's year it is right now, right? So it's 2023, 2006, right? And maybe you want to sort of add one. So 18 years. Jeez, fucking Christ. So yeah. So program for as long as this, and you will be as good as me, maybe even better, because I'm a pretty dumb person. Right. So the only reason why I'm good at programming is because I've been just like grinding it for 18 years because I thought it's cool. And it's going to be a good investment in the future. And then ChatGPT came in. So there you go. What is recreational programming and what's the difference than normal programming? So recreational programming is basically the same idea as recreational math, right? So let's Google up recreational math. Right, so recreational math, recreational mathematics is mathematics carried out for recreational, created for recreation rather than a strict research and application-based professional activity or as part of the student formal education. So it's kind of an interesting concept, right, that not a lot of people can understand, but there is like a whole group of people that do math recreationally just for the sake of doing math, just to replicate so-called mathematical experience. I actually heard people use that combination of words, that phrase, mathematical experience. It almost sounds like a religious experience, but it's a mathematical experience when you carry out the computations and when you're exploring the formulas and stuff like that. And in fact, I think Pythagoreans were even like making a cult out of mathematics. So yeah, so people sometimes even making cults out of the mathematics. So this is a recreational mathematics, and an analog of that for me would be recreational programming. Right, so it's programming for the same reasons people do recreational mathematics. So that's basically the idea, right? It's programming as a recreational activity for the sake of programming, right? For the sake of programming. So there was a good question, I really like that. What's your comment about ChatGPT? So ChatGPT, it's pretty useful tool. Right, so which is probably more useful than Google, and specifically, I suppose, in the context of programming, right? So, like, what's my opinion on programming using ChatGPT? So, from the programming point of view, ChatGPT is a non-deterministic compiler from natural language to a programming language. So that's what it is. And it could be useful for like generating the first approximation of the solution, but then you would have to go on your own from that, right? Then you will have to go from your own on that. And this is the problem, because first of all, it's a non-deterministic compiler. That means that the same piece of code, aka prompt, may generate different results that have different behaviors. That is already very bad for reproducibility and reliability of the software. So this is the first thing. Second of all, you're using natural language for telling computer how to do things. You're using the language that is not designed for writing instructions for computer to carry out. So not only the results of your program, aka prompt, are not reproducible consistently because it's a non-deterministic compiler, you're using language that is not designed for writing programs for computers. So it may look impressive, it may look cool, like a shiny new tool, but in the long term, it's more difficult to write programs like that because it's like all of these things go against you writing a reliable software. But maybe that's okay because nobody expects software to be reliable anymore. So maybe that's fine. Maybe that's exactly what we want. So, and interestingly, like people were using natural languages to describe math for a long time until they realized that the natural language is not suitable for doing that, and they invented mathematical notation. So in mathematics, we actually observed a reversed process where we had natural language then turned into a formal, strict language that is more suitable for mathematics. But for some reason, in computers and in computing, we do that in reverse. We had a strict mathematical language that is suitable for writing computer programs, and we're going towards more natural one that is not suitable for that. And it's kind of weird. So it's kind of upside down. I do not understand that. It's interesting in the moment. It's an interesting novelty. It may even speed up the performance for certain tasks, but in the long run, we're not using the right tools for the tasks. You know what I'm talking about? I feel like it, right? So it's just like my opinion on using ChatGPT specifically for programming. ChatGPT is more versatile tool. You can use it not only for programming, right? So you can use it for more different things. But if we look at it through the prism of programming, this is my opinion on that thing. So very sure this question already got asked multiple times, and I also think that this question is a bit vague. But how would you learn to code if you could start over again? So if how would I learn to code if I were to? I would probably try to, like these days, I would try to Google or maybe ask ChatGPT and maybe start from there. So I don't really know, because how did I learn programming, right? So I was just experimenting. So the cool thing about Warcraft 3, right? So I already told that story multiple times. I learned this kind of stuff through Warcraft 3, right? And it had a map editor, and it had a system of triggers. So essentially, you would have different events that happened within the map, right? So somebody died, or certain units crossed a particular area. You could select an area, so some sort of a trigger area, and you can assign a script. You could assign a script on that specific area. And you know what's funny about this scripting language is that you would like physically edit AST of the script, right? So it's kind of difficult to show. Okay, can we actually find it? Warcraft Craft 3 map editor trigger. Can we find something about that? Because it's kind of difficult to explain how it looked like, but it was like a visual. Yeah, this one, something like this. Right. It's like I would like to have like a bigger resolution. I'm not sure if bigger resolution exists. It's, yeah, something something like this, but not really. So essentially here you have different actions, and those are like literal nodes in a tree, and you could actually expand them, and some of the nodes are, for instance, ifs. It's kind of difficult to see, but they are ifs, right? You can actually expand them and stuff like that. You could say, okay, add an if construction in here, and you could expand then an else branch, and within that you could add more things. You wouldn't edit text. You don't edit text. You literally say insert if in here, insert call to a certain thing, and so on and so forth. It also had a textual representation of the scripting language, but I mean, a lot of people were just like using this sort of editor. It's more like Scratch, I would say. It's more like Scratch. And yeah, so essentially I learned different constructions by just seeing them and experimenting with them and seeing how they behave. So that's how I learned it, and I think it's a good way to learn this basic concept, right? And how would I do that if I didn't know that? Like, I would probably try to find something like that. So suppose something like that exists in a form of Scratch. But the problem with Scratch is that I heard people don't really like Scratch in a sense that it feels like it's for kids. This is one of the arguments against Scratch that I heard. Like, so getting into programming through Scratch, it feels kind of humiliating for some people because they feel like it's for kids. So for this thing doesn't feel that humiliating because it doesn't feel like for kids. It looks like you're playing a cool fucking game, Warcraft 3, and you're like making your own map editor. Like, holy shit. So it doesn't feel like it's for kids. It feels cool. Right, it's like Scratch, but cool. I think we need something like that. What if we had like something like Scratch, but without this kiddish theme, more serious stuff? That would have been interesting. I think there was something like a Luna programming language that was like a visual editing or something like Blueprints. By the way, learning programming through maybe Blueprints in like Unreal Engine or something like that. Right, so yeah, that would be actually kind of cool. What's cool about this kind of thing is that you could discover these constructions, right? So when you learn programming through just a text editor where you have to type characters, you can't discover any of these constructions in a text editor. You need somebody to tell you that you need to put combination of characters if, and then maybe name of the variable and stuff like that to actually do this kind of things, right? But here, you can just find the block and put in here. You can find the block and put in here and discover the property of that block. So you can discover things on yourself. It's really difficult to learn programming in a text editor where you have characters and stuff like that because it's not discoverable. Like, you have just an empty text editor, you know nothing about programming, and they tell you, learn. And like, what do you learn? Like, how do you discover things? So I don't know. So to start probably from complete scratch yourself, you need something like that, I think. You need something like that. Somebody suggesting Zachtronics games. I think they're also kind of cool for that. What's the best way to ditch OOP for game development? Also, what language would you use? So I don't really know. I suppose it depends on the engine, right? So maybe you use an engine where you can't avoid OOP. And what would I use for game development? I would just use C and probably Raylib. So because that's the simplest setup, and I probably would make a simple game. Right? If I were to make a game, I would make something simple and I would use C and Raylib. But I'm not a game developer, neither amateur nor professional one. So I have no expertise to talk about game development whatsoever. So yeah. I don't really know why people ask me the game development question. Like, I'm not a game developer, like, at all. Go ask Jonathan Blow, but I mean, I'm pretty sure he's not going to answer any of the questions about game development because people ask him too many of them. Hi, Tsoding, my career role does not involve much of programming. I'm more of a programmer, but didn't start as one. How can I switch my career? I have no idea, honestly. I know, like, I don't really like to answer a career question because I personally, as a programmer, don't really care about career. Because if I did, I would not be a streamer. So, yeah, my problem is that I like programming as an activity way more than I care about career in IT. Like, I just don't care. So, uh, and the reason why I kind of quit IT completely is precisely because of what you said. There's less programming in software development. Like, apparently people don't need programming anymore. Like, we're doing like anything but programming. And yeah, so I don't have an answer to your question. I'm sorry. I wish somebody answered that question for me too, right? So how can I switch careers so I do more programming? Because even after I quit software development and became a streamer that streams programming, I still, more than half of my work is editing goddamn VODs and preparing new topics instead of actually coding. So yeah, I still didn't get my dream come true, fortunately. How can I, where can I do actual programming? Do we even need programming anymore? Like, it's just like, is it even needed activity? Nobody cares about it apparently, so I don't freaking know. I don't freaking know, meine Freunde, I don't freaking know. Favorite anime? I didn't watch anime, I'm sorry. Please don't hate me. Like, I was trying to get into anime, but I just can't. It's boring. So sorry. It's just like I look at it and nothing triggers in my brain. Like, I just like nothing stimulates my brain in anime whatsoever. It's just like I don't find it interesting. I just don't. I genuinely tried to get into that, but I can't. So maybe I'm dumb. So we got some subs. Wow Player 97, thank you so much for tier 1. The message just saying, I love your content and it keeps my mind sane, that people code just for fun and not for money. So yeah, I'm really glad that it keeps you sane. Because programming by itself, if you strip off all of this like bullshit that is going on at the workplace, programming is extremely fun activity. It is extremely fucking fun. Right, so, and it's the industry that actually strips off all of the fun from it. And I don't really know what to do about that. It's just like, yeah. Why don't you have any methods to support you? Any methods? Because I'm not into OOP. I don't understand the question, honestly. Like, what methods? Is like, you know, in OOP you have objects and you have methods, and why methods don't support me? Because I don't like OOP. So that's probably why they don't want to support me. Because why would they support somebody who hates OOP? I don't really hate OOP. I just like don't find it's particularly useful for software development. It's kind of a weird organization of your software, but I mean, some people like it. I don't know. Does Russian language help you to learn programming? No. Like, how would it help you? It's just a Slavic language. Right. So no, it's as helpful for learning programming as any natural language, which means it's actually bad for learning programming. Natural languages are really bad for learning programming because they don't match how exactly you code, how exactly you tell the computer to do the things. Right. So going back to the conversation about ChatGPT and using natural languages for writing programs, right? So going back to that. So the answer is no. I don't think any natural language is going to make you a better programmer, right? So I believe you need to use the programming languages for programming. Are you a hacker like other Russian programmers? Like, depends on the definition of hacker. So what do you mean by word hacker? Do you mean InfoSec person? Information security specialists? I don't know anything about information security. Like, at least I didn't explicitly study it. Like I didn't explicitly study any information security. But here is an interesting thing. Just because I do programming, just because I build software, I kind of implicitly know some things about information security, but not too many. Here's the thing. So essentially, I know nothing I know nothing about breaking software. I don't really break software. I build software. I'm really good at building software. But because I build software and I'm really good at building software, I kind of know how to break it as well, even though I never explicitly studied breaking software. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Right, so I don't consider myself information security person. I don't really break software, but because I build software, I kind of know how to do that. So I think there was a very good video by Life Overflow on that specific topic. He was actually trying to answer the question, do you need programming to be a hacker? So for those who doesn't know, Life Overflow is an information security specialist from Germany, and he has like a YouTube channel and stuff like that where he answers so different questions and stuff like that. He was making a video like, do you need programming to become like an InfoSec person, like a hacker? And he actually brought up Andreas Kling as an example. Right, I think somebody actually submitted like a vulnerability for Serenity OS, right? And he was able to easily reproduce that, and after that he was able to find on by himself more vulnerabilities, even though he never studied information security and cracking and stuff like that, like at all. He was not like a hacker, InfoSec person, but because he knows how to build software, he also kind of knows how to break it. So yeah, to answer your question, I do not identify myself as a hacker in a sense as the person who breaks software. So there's other definitions of hackers, but let's actually take the one that is the most popular one, the person that breaks software. I do not identify myself as a person who breaks software, who breaks informational systems. But because I build software, I kind of know a thing or two, but not too much. You know what I mean? So that's basically the answer. So any interest in making some Internet of Things project, but I don't have an Internet of Things. I have an old Soviet refrigerator, like it doesn't even connect to the internet. It barely connects to the wall. So I don't know what you want from me. Alright, like so they have programming book recommendations, ones that either programming focused or otherwise. I think one book that I could recommend is on algorithms and data structures. It's just Introduction to Algorithm by like CLRS. So that's the book that I really liked and that I would personally recommend. Right, CLRS book. So something like that. If you're into like algorithms and data structure, I recommend this specific book. It's pretty thick, just like your mom, but if you manage to read it, it's actually pretty cool. You're not supposed to actually read it from the beginning to the end. In fact, it's sort of like a reference manual on different algorithms and data structures, so you're supposed to just keep it. So there's also, you don't even have to buy it. Okay, so they don't allow you to download it, but I mean, it's kind of funny that there is like instantly anyway, so I think you'll find it. I think you'll find it. So anyway, so yes. Do you think a good programmer needs to know a lot of math? I don't think so. It depends on like what do you mean by math? What do you mean by math? Just like math is a very broad topic. Do you mean a very specific branch of math? So the branches of math that you need to know is, first of all, arithmetics. Do you know how to count? Can you do 1, 2, 3, 4? Like, if you can do that, you can probably be a programmer. All right, so that would be nice. That's one of the branch of the mathematics that you need to know. Right. To be fair, just by doing programming, you are already implicitly, without realizing, learning one big branch of mathematics, which is called mathematical logic, right? mathematical logic. Yeah, mathematical logic. So just by doing programming, you're studying that without realizing that. So for those who doesn't know, mathematical logic is programming. It's straight up programming, seriously. It is literally programming. It's programming that was invented by mathematicians before they had computers. They just discovered something intrinsic about proofs and basically executing that proof that is basically programming, and the whole process is Turing complete. They actually realized that and they started to study that, and then they actually demonstrated that mathematical logic is basically programming. There's a thing called Curry-Harvard correspondability. So something like Curry, yeah, Curry-Harvard's correspondence. So this thing. So in a programming language theory, proof theory, this thing shows the equivalence between proofs and programs, right? So after we invented computers and after we studied computer science, we realized that whatever, you know, logicians, mathematical logicians were doing is programming. So just by doing programming, you're already studying mathematical logic, basically. A program is a proof of some theory. Is C good for doing software that needs a lot of network but not a lot of computing, like IRC or HTTP server? I don't freaking know, mate. I don't freaking know. I don't really know. It's like, is it? Nah, that could be it. Nah, probably not. Don't even bother. Don't even bother with that. Don't even bother. So how many languages do you speak? Natural languages, Russian and English, right? And I can understand Ukrainian. Ever since I've started getting into Serbian, my understanding of Ukrainian got boosted as fuck. Yeah, actually, like the more Slavic languages you learn, the more other Slavic languages you start to understand automatically, right? Just because I understand Ukrainian, I way better understand like Belarusian and suddenly Polish, right? So the Polish started to make even more sense all of a sudden. It's just like, what the fuck? It's pretty cool, right? What's your favorite video games? Let me think. I think Binding of Isaac, right? It's one of my favorite games. So I really like the dark patterns they use in the game that makes you hooked, being hooked up. My brain really enjoys that. So sometimes it even feels like gambling. Like Binding of Isaac is such a weird game, by the way. Like you play it and it basically feels like gambling. Right, and you think like there's no skill involved in here. You either like get lucky and get like a lot of cool items and a lot of cool synergies and you win. But then you see all of these YouTubers who's playing Binding of Isaacs and they having this like sort of streaks on the hardest mode possible, and somehow they like never die. And you think like, if that's gambling, how this is not a skill? Like what exactly is the skill in Binding of Isaac? Can anybody tell me? Because it feels like gambling, but at the same time, skillful people can, like dodging, I don't know, maybe it's kind of, so it's more about evading, but at the end of the day, it doesn't feel like being able to evade is like what makes you win the game. It's just like whether you find a good combination of items, that's what matters. So that's what I don't know, like I still didn't understand the game, right? Do you have any music education? I have an unfinished music education, right? So it's really unfinished one. It's a really funny story, actually. I dropped out of the music school when I got my first computer. My entire career in music was fucking ruined by this goddamn computer. I got into programming, and at the end of the day, it was not even worth it, and I actually regret it. I should have stayed in a musical school. So I even had a potential career ahead of me, right? Because the musical school, after you finish it, they would offer you a place in a wind orchestra, right? So in a local wind orchestra, which was actually doing different, was participated in different activities and different like celebrations and stuff like that. And I Googled them up. To this day, they still exist and they're doing really well. They're actually pretty active. They're like, you know, visited different cities and stuff like that. They're still going. Like, should went there. So nobody invented artificial intelligence to replace them. In fact, if there was something to replace musicians, like a real musician, that would have happened, right? Because people invented, you know, vinyl players, vinyl players, you know. So that's supposed to replace musicians, but it didn't. So I should have become a musician, right? I should have become a musician. Could you tell in which IT sphere do you work? That's the neat part. I don't work. I'm unemployed. So for everyone who's about to ask career questions, I'm unemployed. You're literally asking career advice from an unemployed person. Just let that sink in. Why are you doing that? Do you want to become like me? How to start write code in C? You just start writing code in C. Okay. So let me show you. Let me show you how to start writing in C. Hello world in C. Just Google that. So better maybe use Google, not DuckDuckGo. Google is a little bit better for programming. So C hello world. Okay. So program to display. So this is the program. You need to save that to a text file. You need to save that to a text file. So let me actually create something like hello. Right, so, and let's create main.c. We copy paste this thing here. So what's next? They don't really tell you. Dude, holy shit. This is literally generated by ChatGPT. I mean, you can see it's like a signature translation of code to, so, I don't know why, there's something to ChatGPT, but you can instantly recognize this text. You can instantly fucking recognize that. It has sort of like this, like a structure to it, like a very specific structure. Like you can kind of see that it's ChatGPT. I didn't even have to read that, but it's, yeah. By the way, can I rant about it? About the feature that explains the code? Right. Have you noticed that how it doesn't explain the code? It simply translates the code to natural language. It doesn't reduce complexity of the code. It simply just describes like the code as it is without really explaining it. It's not explaining it, just like, you know, translate it to natural language. It doesn't reduce complexity whatsoever. Have you noticed that? It's just like, how is that a useful feature? I don't understand. So it's just like, yeah. Have you used the 4.0 model? Dude, I didn't have an access to ChatGPT 3.5. What are you talking about? Anyway, so you save hello world, right? You don't even have to understand it. You say hello world to a file, and then what you have to do, you have to install some sort of a compiler in C. It's usually GCC, right? So, and what you do, you just call GCC main.c, and you get an executable file. So by default, it's called a.out, but you can give it any name through a flag called -o, right? And that's going to be the executable. And there you go. You've got an actual executable, right, that you can just go ahead and run, and it will, you know, say hello world. That's how you start programming in C. That's everything there is to it. There's everything there is to it. There is a text file. You write your program in that text file. You give that text file to the compiler, and it generates an executable, a sequence of instructions packed in a special format that your operating system can execute. So it's almost like ChatGPT. You can think about this text file as a prompt, and the compiler is a large language model, right? You give that prompt to the compiler, and compiler generates a sequence of native instructions. It's just like ChatGPT. So that's how it works. That's how you start programming in C. Congratulations, right? So, you may notice very interesting things in here, right? So when you run a program, it says hello world, right? It says hello world. Then if you open a file, you don't have to understand what the fuck is written in this file, but you may notice that there is literally the same hello world within that text. Right, so literally the same. You can even compare them. Like, you can literally see that they're the same. This is the same. You may suddenly, all of a sudden, come up with a hypothesis. Wait a second. Maybe that's what prints that combination of characters. Which means that, what if I modify that specific region of the source code? I don't understand what the fuck is that. I don't understand what the fuck is that. But I've noticed that these two things are like literally the same. Holy fucking shit. So let's test a hypothesis. What if I replace this thing with your mom and compile this thing yet again? Would it print, instead of hello world, your mom? So let's actually see. It printed. So holy shit. So that means by doing things like that, I can print on the screen. What if I actually repeat this thing several times and run it again? Holy shit, it repeated it as many times as I put it in here. You see, I don't understand shit. I don't understand shit in here. I'm just experimenting, and I already program in C. So that's how you learn things. That's how you learn things. You just observe and you fuck around. You fuck around until you find out. That's how you fucking do that. It's literally in front of you. You have all of the information to fuck around. Just fuck around. That's how we do it. Next question. I do things like that really with libraries part by part and see what they do. Exactly. Even further, a lot of libraries are open source. You can even read them. Like, I know it feels a little bit intimidating, right, to read the libraries and stuff like that, but you can just read the implementations of the functions that you use. You don't have to open a library and start reading from the beginning to the end and not knowing where to start, right? So you may use like a very simple example, and then you can see the function that you call the most, like the function that you call the most, and you can just pick. You can just pick into the implementation and see what's there, just to satisfy your curiosity. And yeah, so it's actually very educational. You can not only fuck around, but you can actually look inside of it. So yeah, so this is something that I do with the Raylib, for instance. This is something that I do with the Raylib, because Raylib is actually very easy to read, right? So I can just pick into the function. Have you ever used Yocto or some other Linux build system? No, I have no idea what is Yocto. I'm sorry, let me actually check it out. I hope it's not porn, so I'm not gonna actually Google it up off screen. So imagine, okay, so it's not porn, all right, that's already good. So I see it for the first time, sorry. Okay, Yocto project is not an embedded Linux distribution. It creates a custom one for you. Right. Meta, Linux, Microsoft, Open Embedded, holy AWS, holy fucking shit. I don't know what it is, I'm sorry. I have no idea what the fuck it is, my friend. What is your working environment? Like, which distro? It's Debian. I can show you if you're interested. I don't fucking know. It's just... I need to upgrade, actually. That's the setup of a chat developer. 26... Yeah, it's laptop, by the way. Yes. This is the laptop on which I created the legendary Porth. Is this a ThinkPad? It's a Lenovo B69 something. I don't fucking know what the fuck it is. It's just like something that I bought more than 10 years ago, actually. So laptops and netbooks. B series. It's for 4chan users. Change to Russia. Let's proceed with the United States of America. The country of freedom. Hell yeah! Okay, cool. Where is the freedom laptop? I didn't see it, but yeah, whatever. Okay. Why don't you use NixOS anymore? Because I got tired of this ideological bullshit. That's why. Essentially, NixOS requires you to do everything in a very anal way. Right. And I got really burnt when I was trying to do commercial work on NixOS. Because in the commercial work, I had to do with a lot of unconventional software that I need to install and hack very quickly in a very dirty way. And any quick, dirty hacks are almost impossible in NixOS. At least they are extremely painful. And it creates a lot of friction. So I said, fuck that, just give me a Linux distribution where I can do whatever the fuck I want. So the main point of NixOS is so-called reproducibility, and I just realized that in 99.9999999% of the cases, I literally don't give a shit about reproducibility. I just need to get the shit done, and that doesn't include reproducing the same shit over and over again. I just need to quickly hack something, and you just need to quickly get something done, and NixOS is really bad for that. I'm really sorry to tell you. It is really bad for that. Something like Debian is way better for that because I can quickly hack something. So you may say that using Debian stable is actually very painful because its repos has old software. But nothing stops me in Debian to just download the source code of a fresher software and just build it and just install it. Something like that in NixOS, it's just like, it's painful. You have to use this Nix something, like, I don't give a fuck, just give me the software. You know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm talking about? I kind of grew out of this ideological phase, of this ideological purism a long time ago, so I don't care anymore. I'm sorry. Sorry. Just use Windows. Yeah, I think I should switch to Windows. I think I should switch to Windows. How to write hello world without stdio? Let's actually try to do that. That's a good question. Let's see. And if you say that, oh, you actually cheated, do that without UniSTD. I cheated with your mom. Dub, 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 dub. Right. Are you a real programmer if you don't write syscalls by hand? I mean, that's literally syscall, isn't it? So, right, so I'm just like using syscalls. How you to became fluent in English? You just speak in English, right? You just force yourself to speak English as much as possible, and that's how you become super fluent. Any plans on making a video for the main Tsoding channel? Right, so I set up myself like sort of like a high quality bar for the main channel, where I have to like edit and everything, and I just like couldn't bring myself to do that anymore. So, but maybe in the future. So yeah, maybe we should make a small break. Because I'm kind of falling asleep. So I need to make a cup of tea. So let's make a small break. Yo, what's up? I'm back. So we're gonna be steeping some tea for 4 minutes, my usual steeping time. Yusu. If you were to write a 2D game, would you use game engine like Godot or use a framework like Raylib and make a custom engine in C++? I think I'm gonna go with Raylib. Alright, so, and if at some point of development I'll need something more complicated that Raylib provides, I would actually extend Raylib. Raylib is actually very small and simple that you can just modify it, right? So I would use Raylib as a starting point for making my custom engine, so to speak, right? Raylib is simple enough that I can eventually turn it into like a whole engine, right? So sort of like a template, if that makes any sense. How to learn functional programming language if you worked only with procedural ones? Yeah, I don't really know. I don't remember how I learned Haskell, to be fair. Right, I just the same way as you learn imperative one, you fuck around. So you remember how I showed how to learn C? You learn Haskell the same way. You literally learn Haskell the same way. Okay. Hello world in Haskell. You get the point. You get the point, right? So yeah. Just fuck around until you find out. It's like literally the same thing. What do you think about the absolute state of GUI, especially cross-platform? Are we doomed to use bloated Electron apps? We don't have to? Okay, so let me show you. So, do you know Mutualizer? So let me actually fetch the latest changes, because I think in the latest changes we have something cool. Yes, so I'm gonna try to rebuild this entire thing. Okay, so let me actually start. I'm gonna do... how do you start the file manager? I forgot how to start file managers. So alright, and then we can just start build Mutualizer as well. Yeah, new buffer. So okay, so you're supposed to drop some music in here. Let's find some music. We have some VIP works in here. Alright, so this is UI without any Electron whatsoever. So we can even give it more music, I think. So I think like more of different stuff would be actually very beneficial, so we can have more things. Because then we're gonna have scroll. Yeah, there we go. So And it's even scrollable. You can even scroll this entire thing. You can switch between things, and all of that without Electron. And it's actually, look how quickly it like resizes and stuff like that. And I did all of that from scratch in C. It was actually super easy. So, and there is even a stream where I did all of that. So you don't have to do that. You don't have to use Electron if you don't want to. So essentially what you need is an ability to put shapes on the screen. If you are capable of putting shapes on the screen, you can make UI out of that. You should be just not afraid. So the only reason why people don't do it the way I do it is because they are afraid, right? I think you should not be afraid. So that's basically my idea. So we're not really doomed, we're not really stuck. We just should stop being afraid, right? So somehow people were making sophisticated UI without any frameworks. People used to write UI programs straight up in WinAPI. How were they doing that without any fucking frameworks? But they were doing that. Right, so it still works. The same API that you used to use still works. Why don't we use that today? And why do we complain, oh, how are we gonna do like a cross-platform API? But I mean, so the only thing you need is just a shapes, right? You just need shapes. So you can quite easily write a simple like abstraction layer on top of WinAPI that will translate to something else on Linux. Right. So, like, at which point we became so whiny in complaining about just fucking write UI, get fucking damn it. Stop crying. That's how you solve the problem. Right. So what is your current opinion on the programming language Lisp? So my opinion on which one? There is no such programming language as Lisp. I'm sorry to tell you that it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist for more than half of a century. It's just like not a thing. It's a family of programming languages, quite diverse programming languages. Scheme is quite different from Common Lisp, and it is quite different from Clojure. Gia, what's up? What's up? What's up? Hello, hello. So, what's my opinion on the whole family of these languages? The only thing that unites the family of these languages is the syntax. So that means the question boils down to what I think about Lisp syntax. But there's more to Lisp, different Lisp than syntax. They actually can have kind of interesting semantics and stuff like that. So your question boils down what I think about S expressions. They're okay, I guess. That's one way to represent the AST, I guess. So that's basically it. So your opinion on parentheses. Well, I mean, here's the thing. There is a classical example, right? So this is how you call function in C. This is how you call function in C. And this how you call functions in Lisp. Same amount of parentheses? Huh? It's literally the same amount of parentheses. What the fuck are you talking about? It's the same. So it is as much as in C. So I don't know why people constantly complain of too many parentheses. I don't understand. Where do they see too many parentheses? It's literally the same amount of parentheses. I just proved it to you. So I don't know. So my opinion is it's one way to represent AST, I guess. So that's my opinion. If you want to talk about specific Lisps, right, we can talk about that. There's things like Common Lisp, Scheme, Clojure. Racket is actually a pretty cool Lisp. I think it's based on Scheme, right? God fucking damn it, yeah. In C you can even do this kind of stuff. Yeah, this one I really like. This is one of my favorite Lisps, right? Racket. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Really recommend to check it out. Golang, yay, yeah, Golang is my favorite Lisp. Hell yeah, brother. Worst Lisp is eLisp. I do agree with that. As an Emaxer, I do agree with that. So what kind of tea do I drink? I drink some sort of green tea. I think it's just a green tea, loose leaf green tea. We had to use Racket in college for functional programming. It was cool. It is in fact cool. So it also has some sort of an IDE called DrRacket. Oh, I even have it. Look at that. I have a DrRacket. A racket. DrRacket. It takes so much time to load it up. Why did it take so much time? So I don't freaking know. It's loading icons. Look at that. Fucking. Like, what I like about DrRacket, it takes so much time to load up, and this is what you're greeted with. Like, excuse me? What exactly were you loading up? Like, what? What the fuck is this? Why? 1, 2, 3, 4. So can I increase? I can increase the font. I can increase no language chosen. Memory limit 128 megabytes. 120 megabytes is enough for anybody. It is enough for anybody. DrRacket cannot process program until you choose a programming language. We've been waiting a minute for that. For 128 megabytes. And not being able to use this thing until we choose a language. Yes. That's what we were loading up. So can I increase a font? It's kind of interesting. I'm focused at the top and I'm trying to increase the font, but it's increasing the font of the bottom thing. It's a marvelous programming language. Oh, anyway. So, oh, it's actually, okay, it also increases it. Okay, so lang racket. So can I do that now? So I think I have to reload this entire thing. Yeah, I have to reload it. Warning, the definition window has changed. Click run. Okay. Oh yeah, here is the run. Yo, motherfucker, yo. Can I, what's the key to do run? Yeah, okay. So +1 2. What is it? It is lagging like a motherfucker. It was lagging to highlight the numbers in here. For fuck's sake. And I was advertising this language. Holy shit. 120 megabytes is not enough. Yeah, it is not. Would you consider writing a programming language for music creation like Sonic Pi, Super Collider? Maybe. I was thinking to implement like a simple synthesizer, but I need a MIDI keyboard. So can you please tell Jiblo he should release Jai open beta? Like he wouldn't listen to me? I didn't think so. I honestly think that John Blow should not release Jai at its current state, because all of the junior developers are gonna cry all over the Hacker News and all over the Reddit how Jai is bad and readable and safe and maintainable and so on and so forth. And because 99% of software developers these days is juniors, it's pretty much everyone is going to be crying about that. And this language is not designed for inexperienced developers. This language is designed for experienced developers. So yeah, I don't think it's a good idea to actually release it at this point. People just won't understand. But they are going to anyway probably, and he's kind of losing experienced devs to Zeek right now. Dude! All of the experienced devs are already in beta! All of the experienced devs are already in beta, my friend. I'm really sorry to tell you that. Oh, you are not in beta? Well, I have bad news for you. Did you always work with Linux and Vim terminal? No, not really. My first operating system was Windows XP, right? So my first operating system was that. My first IDE was Delphi 7. People just don't realize how fucking old I am, right? It's kind of funny how people see me for the first time and they assume that I started to program like yesterday, right? I've been programming for 18 years. I went through like different shit. Not Windows 95, or unfortunately, yeah. So I'm not that old, right? I'm not on the level of people who started at DOS. I wish I was, but I'm not. So, what project makes you feel prouder, Porth or Olive C? Neither. I don't know. So if I have to choose between these two. Actually, Olive C, right? So if I have to pick between like Porth and Olive C, it's Olive C. Because in Olive C, I realized my old dream, and my old dream was, let me actually show you. So to be able to do that pixel by pixel without OpenGL. And I wanted to be able to do this kind of stuff. I think since I started to do programming, like I wanted to understand 3D graphics at a very deep level, at a very, very deep level. And I finally did it. I finally understand 3D graphics on a deep enough level, not too deep, but deep enough to actually be able to render this kind of stuff without OpenGL, pixel by pixel. This is not OpenGL. Like I'm literally rendering all that pixel by pixel. So, and that is something I'm super proud. I'm more proud of that than I'm proud of Porth. Seriously. I know people find making your own programming language more impressive than this, but because I know how programming languages are made, programming languages are not a mystery boxes for me, fortunately or unfortunately. Right, so I completely demystified programming languages for myself a long time ago, so I don't find them interesting anymore. Right, but this thing was a mystery for me at the time, and that is something I'm super proud of. So yeah, I'm more proud of Olivet's rather than of Porth. So that's the answer. Didn't you put this in WASM too? Yes, it is WASM, by the way, right? So essentially what this thing does, these pixels are generated within WASM module. So what we do, JavaScript calls a WASM function. WASM function populates memory with pixels, then goes back into JavaScript. JavaScript takes that memory, turns it into image data, and puts it on a canvas, and it does that 60 times per second. That's how it generates. So the thing that generates these pixels, it's written in C and compiled to WebAssembly, and basically populates the pixels in the memory, and then just like puts it on canvas. So yeah. So how powerful the CPU is today? It is actually pretty powerful. Have you ever tried to learn React? I think I tried, because I was thinking maybe I need to take like a job for React. Like I used to do like what was it called, freelancing, and I was considering taking like a maybe front-end React job, but I didn't know React and I wanted to learn it, and I opened it up and I just like, I don't want to learn this shit, and I just decided not to. Maybe the time has come to learn React. I kind of know how it works though. I kind of know how it works, so maybe we should learn React. But that's a story for another time. I'll post it as a separate video later. But for now, thanks everyone for watching. Have a good one, and I see you all on the next Recreation programming session with Azuzin. I love you all. Mwah.